Hello and welcome to the Reign of Blood podcast, brought to you by the Reign of Blood Festival team. So this is the podcast where you get a behind-the-scenes look at the con and the sharks and blood kinksters all over the world who will be celebrating with us. So this podcast is intended for mature audiences who have an interest in blood and sharks-based kinks only. So if that's not you, then this podcast definitely is not for you. So these are real stories from real kinksters, and so they may contain discussions surrounding things like health, mental health, kink, blood, self-harm, traumatic experiences, and more. So if you're having a rough day or these topics could be distressing for you, then we would advise you to come back when you're more ready to enjoy the topic with us.
Hey, amazing sharps lovers. Thank you for joining me again today. And I'm so excited. First of all, it's International Women's Day. And I'm speaking today to somebody who probably was one of the first pictures I saw on FitLife that started my absolute obsession with needles and string. So this is a big fangirl crush for me, and really lovely to connect after I've had some time playing with needles and revisit this beautiful human's work, and just remember that really the sort of foundations of my own journey, but just to see that they are just as committed to the path and they're still loving their sharps. So I'd love you all to please welcome the Psycho Babe into my dungeon tonight. And thank you so much for this privilege, and thank you for chatting to me. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Well, good morning. It's great to be here. I was quite a surprise to hear that, that you saw my work and it inspired you. And I'm really glad. I think that's one of the main reasons why I started posting pictures on FET to begin with, was really to get people to think about needles a little differently, that they're not as scary or, devastatingly cruel as they can be. But there's a beauty to it, an expression to it.
Oh, definitely. And your red string has haunted me for 5 years of my life. It's definitely something I've carried through in all the work that I've done since then. So it definitely had an effect and definitely inspired my work. I think at that time I wasn't brave enough to try sticking pins in myself. So I did the next best thing and found a penis and stuck them in lots of penises. And that was the beginning of my evolution. And now I'm super happy to have needles in myself as well, but still have the red string and still refer to your pictures. They were such a huge motivator for me, and they made me feel less alone in I think in a community that sometimes feels very, very solitary because of the bans and the blocks on the content. So yeah, I've got a huge smile on my face, and I'm really privileged to have you here. But I don't want to tell my story tonight. I'm desperate to chat to you, so I want to start with a little bit about your story, how you got involved in kink, and where are you in the world, and what is kink to you now?
Well, I started quite young, so I think I have to put a disclaimer there. It was a very different time and a different place. So the age of consent was a lot younger. And I had discovered that I could really convert pain into pleasure. And it was something that I found so amazing that I wanted to share with other people. It's like, this is great. You got to try this. So I used that to connect really just to the closest, most intimate people with me. And as I traveled and relocated around the world, I kind of kept very quiet about what I was doing because it didn't seem very safe, I think, at that time to reach out to other people because they could be dangerous. So I discovered the community only when I had settled down in North America. And I was actually looking for knife people. And I was told that people there don't really like pain for the sake of pain. They don't like cutting, scarring, bleeding. And it was very confusing to me why anybody would use knife play and not do all these things. And so I I thought, well, maybe there are some hook people here, the flesh hooks. That's something I can really understand as well. I mean, culturally, we have blood based piercing rituals as well. So that was not too far off from what I was familiar and comfortable with. And I heard they were also very difficult to find, mostly in the body mod community, not so much in kink. And somebody finally said, well, have you tried the needle people? There's a group here that gets together and does needles. And I thought, okay, well, let's give that a try. And it opened up a whole new world for me with people that I could connect to and people who really sort of understood how you could really communicate and express different emotions with your partner through blood and needles. Yeah. And that's pretty much how it is now.
I love that. The needle. We also have this needle group, and it's just an place to express honesty and just an authentic. It's just an authentic experience where two people are present at the same time, which I think is severely lacking in today's world. So I love that you found a little community, and I know that when I found mine, I felt so much less alone
Yes, it
and
did.
weird.
It seemed to be less alone, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so much less weird. So, you obviously play a lot, and have a few years behind you. So when you're looking at sharps play and sharps as a whole, are there things that are important to you for setup? Are there things that are sort of almost ritualistic in the way that you set up that prepare you for a scene and set the tone?
I think, well, this is just my opinion, obviously. I think there really is a certain element of ritual to it. I think by the nature of the play, and especially for myself, since it is something I do either to express, you know, how I'm feeling towards myself or another person. So it becomes a very intimate act. And for me, if I'm just self-piercing, that would start with a shower. I really love to be clean before I begin, like head to toe. Usually before the shower, I'll have something to eat and drink because I don't want to feel interrupted by hunger or thirst that would sort of interrupt that moment. But otherwise, I tend to prepare the body. It is a very meditative headspace almost. And then I have things laid out. I have three different zones at least: the clean, the dirty, and the contingency zone. If I'm playing with somebody else, it tends to be more spontaneous. So I think the ritual in that would be more of flirtation, and that would be sort of that I just kind of get really intrigued with someone, and I just want to kind of crawl into their head and see who they are and what they like, and from there we just kind of go, okay, well, do you want to try something? And once again, it's the preparation, I think, of the body. Um, yeah, the setup of the area, and then it's kind of like for me, I think it's almost an adornment of the body. It's almost like a worship when you think about it. So yeah, sanitation and sort of general cleanliness and hygiene is like super important to me.
I love that. I think all the shops players that I speak to, we all very worried about sanitation and cleanliness. But I think you've touched on something there that is really important. You said something that really resonated with me. That the self care that went into your prep before your self piercing, because you didn't want to be interrupted by things that you could have managed before. And I think that's huge. It's a huge self-awareness thing to say, I need to prepare my body for what it's about to participate in. So not just a shower, but making sure that you have had everything you need to eat and drink. I loved the way you talked about hunger interrupting the scene, and that's something that you didn't want to allow into that space. I thought that was really, yeah, it really hit home to me this morning. I think it's a lovely way to think about it, just giving yourself that time and that space to absorb the moment, and just pre-thinking with a bit of self-care. I really love that. I'm a big promoter of self-care. I think that needles for me has shown me how to take better care of my body. The aftercare for me becomes self-care, which means that I can do more needles
Yeah.
because I'm looking after myself better. But just made me so much more aware of my own body. I loved the way you said that. I really appreciated that. And then you sound really cute and giggly about playing with another partner. It's lovely. It's I feel the joy coming off it. I'd love to watch a session. It feels like your dungeon is a very happy place.
I hope so. I don't want to scare people, because it's something I really enjoy using that as a medium to connect with another human being. And I think if we scare too many people, they're not going to come to us, right? They're not going to really experience that joy, that there is something more to it than just blood and gore, that you can really find a headspace in yourself and with somebody else. And why rob the world of that, right?
Yeah, I know, I love that. And the adornment, the decoration of this beautiful canvas. I see the skin's become this amazing canvas to me. I think there's some sharps players that take it right to the level where they talk about their canvases instead of talking about their bottoms. And I'm starting to reach a point in my life where I actually understand that. And I want my canvases to look after their canvases really well so that we can do the best piece possible. But I also want those canvases to be that 3D art and the best piece of art that they can be. So for me, I really like the idea of adorning the body. It's something that I think the body is so beautiful. The skin is such an emotional organ. It's almost like the art then goes from being sort of 2D to being the sort of amazing 3D, because you're adding the pain and the emotion behind it, and that whole sensory feeling that the skin has the capacity to represent. It's just phenomenal. It's my bucket list thing. You can tell I'm slightly obsessed with skin and needles, but
Yeah,
yeah. And
it's interesting. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
sorry, it's technically your fault. So like this is like yeah. So if you had to give your play a couple of words to describe it, maybe 3 words to describe it, what would they be, and why would you choose those words?
I think being connective is because I really do connect with people when I do that, and I'd like to think they connect back. But it's a shared headspace. It's a very special moment in time, I think, when I am there with a bottom and I'm sticking them, and you can really see them kind of floating away, or you just kind of you almost merge in a weird way. Um, in terms of where your heads are and your hearts are at. So yeah, definitely connective. I'd like to think I'm attentive to people as well. I really do like observing them and making sure that they are okay. That's always been important to me. I don't like seeing somebody in distress that I didn't want to cause, because I really want people to enjoy and to really feel, the enjoyment that I feel. I really want to share that with them. And I think the third would be, wow, expressive, I think. Because when I do something with somebody, it's not just me controlling the outcome, but it's their input as well. And it's the energy they bring. It's a back and forth. So I don't do stencils or patterns or any very cut and dry plan, but rather I just kind of create that moment as we go along together. So that outcome is partly the creativity and energy that the other person brings, and it's like painting together almost, I guess. As you said, the canvas, like we do create art in a sense, and emotion and other things that we bring in together. And so each person in each play is going to be slightly different, depending on who I'm playing with and where their headspace is, or maybe what they wanted to express at that moment. If they're grieving or joyous, it becomes so many different things. So I guess that would be the 3 words.
I love that. I think if I had to choose 3 words for your work, it would be authentic. and you can see the connection. Even in your self stab, you can see the connection, and then just your creativity. So I love what you chose, but it's definitely reflected back in your work. It's very authentic, and it's just a pleasure. And thank you for sharing it, because I think you started sharing it in a time when it was quite taboo to do so, and it was quite unsupported. So just really glad that you were there, even though you were miles away from me, that there was somebody to connect with on that level.
Well, thank you. You know, it's one of the reasons why I did start posting. I was hesitant. I thought, wow, everybody's going to hate me. I'm going to be like an outcast in this place if I show this. But at the same time, I felt really strongly that if I feel this way, there must be somebody else out there in the world who feels the same way and is maybe alone or afraid. And I figured, well, if I took that risk and maybe just put that there and see what happens, that maybe it would resonate with someone. And the outcome was a bit, a lot, not even a bit, it was very surprising that people who otherwise, I think, were averse to it, kind of opened up to it a bit. I've had a lot of people who really did not like needles or were terrified of them, and they became very curious and I think more open-minded about it. And people like you, it's great to know that we are finding connections together, and that we're kind of moving forward and just not being so alone. Yeah.
I love that. We've got a lot of sort of novice sharps listeners listening to these podcasts, and you've had quite a bit of experience. You also seem to have the same um, sort of ethos about sharing this kink. I mean, I just want to put needles in everybody, partly because I just want to put needles in everybody, but partly because I want them to feel the joy and understand that it's not this terrible medical procedure that needs to be feared and hated. It can be. We can definitely play like
Yeah,
that. Yeah, I can definitely make that happen, but it doesn't have to be. It can just be this sort of serotonin high of joy and friendship and intimacy, and it's such a deep a cubic depth of connection when you piercing somebody. So do you have some advice maybe for some green flags of what baby sharps players can look for when they are starting out in the journey in other sharps players? So looking for a good top or looking for a good bottom, what are some green flags? What are positive things to take home from this chat?
wow. Well, you know, I do pick up play with needles, which is probably surprising to some people, but I've done it successfully, especially because I do move around a lot, and so I'm constantly, I think, the new kid on the block. So uh, I do engage with pickup play, and one of the things that I have realized in terms of green flags for bottoms is they don't always need to, I think, they don't always have to be experienced. So I think that's sometimes people are like expecting maybe people who are already experienced, but for a new person to come in, I think they just have to be really I was going to say desirous. I don't know if that's a word, but they have to have the desire to do that. And I think an open-mindedness and a curiosity, um, and some information. Not everybody you meet in the dungeon for the first time knows everything about it, and I think it's unreasonable to expect somebody to have the full research, to qualify them to bottom. Although it's a good idea, don't get me wrong, it's a good idea that they should have some knowledge of it. And that's my thing, I think, is people should have some idea of what they're getting into, but I don't expect them to know everything, because I think that would stop them from doing it. But rather, they should know that there are some risks involved, and I can't explain it to them, but they have to also be aware, because of the way I play, that I won't be able to prevent everything, or I won't be able to explain everything, in that one moment of time before we start. And I try to get people on board. It's like, well, this is how it goes. Have you heard about this? Are you familiar with it? Are you aware of the risks in this? And then I go on to tell them, well, you know, I won't be able to control everything, and you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with trusting me that I know what I do and that I will take good care of you, and that things could still go wrong despite my best efforts. And I think it's the willingness to go there uh, is a green flag for me. I think their self-awareness is a really good green flag for me, because I think people who are not sure will back out, right? Or people who really maybe have that need to know all the information, then I'm not the right person for them. But if they're willing to take a risk on me, I'm willing to take a risk on them. And I think in the end, that's what it boils down to, at least for me. And I don't know if that's going to apply very well to other people. Um, in Europe, people are very, I think, more open-minded. In North America, people are a little more cautious. So that really depends on, I think, where you are in the world or what the vibe is on that particular community. So yeah, I don't know if I'm the best person to say, well, these are green flags, but self-awareness, willingness to take a risk, and trust in themselves and trust in me. I think those would be the main green flags for me.
I think those are excellent. I think that somebody asked me about a year ago, why I feel so confident in kink, and I can, I'm not a big pickup player. It doesn't work for me, but why I'm so confident to do the stuff that I do, and it's because I trust myself. And I think you sort of touched on that as well, and you know that knowing yourself, and I want to play with people who trust themselves too. And who have self-awareness, and then self-awareness to know that that this risk comes with accountability, that things are, this is crazy. We do crazy shit, like we really do crazy shit. Some of us do more crazy shit than others, but it's really crazy shit. It's not stuff that happens at McDonald's on a Sunday afternoon. Like, it's not a family activity. So you've got to be aware of that going into it. And I think people that expect the tops to handle that and come to the tops with the expectation that the tops are going to be fully responsible for that, for me, I can't align with that. We're both taking the risk. And when it goes wrong, it's going to go wrong for both of us. We're both impacted by the harm that happens afterwards. So we both need to be aware and realistic about that. But I see a lot more reality in the sort of sharps world. Like, I think we're all very aware that stuff can go wrong. I think as tops, we're very researched in as much as we can be. I think we spend a lot of time, and I think for me as a top, I'm always desperate for my bottoms to want to research on their own, to want to find information on their own, to want to not just rely on me for the responsibility, and then to share that and to collab that with me.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Because I think there's so much that can go wrong. It's really impossible to control everything, or to know everything, or to impart all the information. Like, you have to really take a risk, and perhaps that's why it's called edge play.
Yeah, and I also think, definitely. I also think you don't know what you don't know until you know it.
Yeah.
Like, there are times where, like, you can think you know everything, and you can go into a scene, and it can go horribly wrong, and you're only going to know what you didn't know after that scene. So it's also about taking the risk and being prepared to put the trust in, like you spoke a little bit earlier about it, because you're only going to sometimes have the information when you get to that point. It doesn't matter how good your research is, you don't know what you don't know until you need to know it. And then you're very aware that you don't know it. But that's the growth, and I think that's the beauty of the thing, and having a player that is accountable with you, where you can share that and say, look, I could have done this differently, this could have been changed, next time we'll do X differently, and just sort of enjoying the fact that it's a learning moment together is sometimes part of the fun for me anyway.
Yeah, I like collaborative efforts. I'm not quite the needle top who's going to dictate this is how it's going to go. I really do want to be felt that I really do like feeling that I'm working with someone together, not just topping them, because I'm not really a dom. Everybody thinks I'm a dom. I think I'm not.
I think the more I've got into needles and sharps, the more I realize I'm a sadomasochist. I just like the pain. I like both sides of the pain. I like being on both of ends of the sharp thing. But yeah, I don't really want the DS to go with it anymore. I just want to be able to share that pain with you in creation. It's really beautiful for me like that. So I relate
Yeah.
to that as well. And I don't really want the responsibility of being your dom. I'm good with not having that. Thanks. You can look after yourself. Go and be an adult all on your own. You got this far. Um, so you've done some amazing pieces and some really fun stuff. What is your favorite, and what piece sticks out in your mind the most with your shops?
Wow. Well, yeah, last month I think, because it was February, and I thought, well, it's the year of the dragon, and it's Valentine's Day, and all kinds of really fun things happening. I did break out some of the pink needles. They were the 18 gauge. I typically stay with the 25 gauge because I love the blue color. But now that I'm in Europe, 25 gauge needles are orange, and that's my least favorite color. So I thought, ooh, I think I'll just start using the pink ones. They're 18 and they're big and a little bit intimidating. But I did a little test. I stuck one in and I thought, ooh, this actually feels better than the 25s. And then I thought, well, maybe that's just a fluke. And I poked in a two or three more, and I thought, wow, this is really nice. And before I knew it, I had poked in about 66 of them. I could have stopped really at 50, I think, for the low bands. But I didn't like the aesthetics of having it kind of short on one end, so I extended it by another 10 or so needles, 12 needles. And then I ended at 62 needles, but I thought, well, that's a weird number. So I just kind of poked in a few more just to make it an even 66. And I really liked the way it came out. Well, I'm weird that way. I like pink. Um, but I think the needles, the way they go in, feel a bit nicer. Um, and I think the aesthetics that I was able to create on that particular day was really satisfying, because that was a particular day that I really took time for myself to celebrate the new year and Valentine's. It was kind of a Valentine to myself, really, just to stick a bunch of pink needles in myself. But I think that for now is one of my most memorable moments. I'm sure I'm going to have more as I keep sticking myself in other people, though.
I love that. And that low bass basic, I think, as a self pierce is for me it was quite a big step. So huge congratulations. It's yeah. And I have to say we were chatting as a group the other day about those blue needles, because they really are beautifully blue. So they're really quite pretty to use. I completely relate to that. But they little sharp, stingy buggers.
Yeah.
They're quite spicy. So I have to say, like, I'm almost more happy with the 18 gauges. They're not as pretty as those pretty bright blue ones, and they don't photograph quite as nicely as the pretty bright blue ones, but damn, they're half as spicy. They're almost like a therapeutic pain instead of this like sharp sting. Those blue ones sting
Yes.
all the way. It doesn't matter how many go in your leg.
It's like little ants biting you.
Yeah, and it's a bit like repetitive, the 18 gauges tend to go sort of, I don't know if it's a numbness, or they tend to sort of, my body feels more accepting.
Yes, I noticed that. There's a sort of satisfaction when it goes in very clean, and when it goes out, there's a bit of resistance, but it feels good. Versus the other one, it's like I feel like I'm being crawled on by a bunch of fire ants. Oop, no, oops.
Hey, it's huge. I love the fact that you spend time with yourself. I love hearing people talk about that. I think we do so little of that these days. Um, our heads are so busy with 100 different thoughts for 100 different shopping lists for 100 different things that we're not present with ourselves. So it's the one thing from self-stab that I really take home every time, is that capacity to be present with myself and just give myself the benefit of the doubt and spend some time with me without being busy on other people's issues.
Yeah, I try to tell people it's like taking a bubble bath. And I always get these weird looks. They're like, "Oh, no, no, that's not the same." What, I think for somebody like me, yeah, it is the same. You take that moment to just sort of relax into it and just spend time with yourself in your own head, in your own skin. I think it's wonderful. I highly recommend it for everyone.
Highly recommend it too. And I really loved chatting to you. You joining us for our BIPOC panel in April. So we are going to start to put up the questions on FetLife within the next few weeks to get people to see if they've got any questions. If anybody's looking to reach out to you, where can they find you? Do you want to drop your socials in here?
The only social media I am even capable of using is FetLife. So I'm on FetLife.com and I am the Psycho Babe. I think there are four Psycho Babes, but I am the Psycho Babe. Um, and yeah, you'll know I'm the skull. I'm just I'm just a picture of an anonymous skull. And yeah, that's pretty much the only way you can find me. If you see me somewhere else, it's not me, just on FetLife.
And we'll be back with the panel in April. We've got Rain Blood coming up. We're really grateful that you are spending some time with us and helping us promote a little bit of the needles and promote a bit of the education. And thank you you ticked my bucket list. I'm really grateful for the chance to get to talk to you today. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and I hope we can together change people's minds on needle play and maybe get people to sort of open up and just experience that joy.
I definitely think we can. And if anybody's looking for more information and anybody wants to learn more about needle play, guys, hit up Rain of Blood Con on Instagram. We've still got some tickets available. We have a downloadable resource package from the 1st of April. That package will contain all the 101s. It's on demand, so you can watch it anytime you like for the entire April. And then at the end of April, we have 3 days of our convention, and we have some incredible presenters, some incredible tops, some incredible bottoms, and just some bucket list experiences. So grab yourself a ticket. You need to join our Discord once you have the ticket. It seems really difficult, but it's not. And there is an age verification on the Discord solely for the fact that we don't want to have any drama at the conference. We need to know you all over age 18. So do the age verification. Our mods are there to help and guide you through it. Yeah, and then come and just help us make it rain. We're really excited. Really grateful to the beautiful human who was in the dungeon today. Yeah, and I hope you guys have just an incredible Women's Day. Mine has been a bit bucket list. I got to speak to one of my heroes today. So, from this kitten in South Africa, I hope you all keep it sharp and we'll chat to you guys soon.